You're watching the Working Family Show, made possible by GFT, Guam's local union.
I've been a GFT member since 2006, and well, they've been working with the port to get us a contract, which would better our pay and our working conditions. So if you ain't a GFT member, just sign up.
My name is Jo Hasuguleag, and I am a union organizer here at GFT, and I've been working in this role for about a year. The training I attended was absolutely wonderful. I got to meet many people from all over the nation, all doing the same type of work that I've been doing here at GFT. Many of them worked in different areas, but all related to education. And it was really nice to sort of see how GFT is connected to the bigger picture and how we are connected to the bigger labor movement across the nation. And it was a really great experience. We learned a lot about organizing modalities, how to try and build the union, how to spread the message about what the union stands for and why the labor movement is so important to the working families of our country. During the week I was there, they told us that on Wednesday of that week we would be attending, or participating rather, in the Employee Free Choice Act rally, which was scheduled to take place in front of our nation's capital. It was also made known to me that it would be snowing that day. So needless to say, I was a bit nervous about being out in the cold, but the experience was completely worth it. We all met down at AFT headquarters in Washington, D.C., and a bunch of people from the class I was a part of, as well as other people who were working with AFT, prepared at the headquarters and marched down to our nation's capital, where we were joined by people from all over the nation, from many different other unions, other professions, and we were all there for a single cause, and that was to lobby for the Employee Free Choice Act and to show, demonstrate to our government, to the federal government, as well as everyone else who was watching, how important the Employee Free Choice Act was and how it could help our nation. The Employee Free Choice Act is very important, not just to working families, but to our nation as a whole. One of the women who gave a speech at the rally, who was a nurse, actually made a very good statement, and she said that this is not a worker issue, this is not an employer issue, it is an American issue. And I felt she hit the nail on the head with that statement. The Employee Free Choice Act is so important because it will eliminate a lot of the red tape that exists in terms of labor laws and in terms of what unions can do when trying to organize or help different groups of workers to assert their rights as workers. The Employee Free Choice Act basically will help hold employers to a much higher standard and will create stricter penalties for employers who try to prevent their workers or their employees from a basic right, which is to form a union and be able to represent themselves as workers in their workplace and to fight for a better work environment and better treatment. You're watching the Working Family Show, made possible by GFT, Guam's local union. the Employee Free Choice Act also will help organizers such as myself when we are organizing different work groups, because it will eliminate certain steps in the organizing process, certain steps in the process for obtaining exclusive recognition for a work group, and for that reason alone it's extremely important. I think one of the most beneficial things for me to see and be a part of at this training was to hear what other unions and other states were doing and the challenges that they were facing. It helped me see that a lot of the challenges and difficulties we face here on Guam are not limited to Guam. It showed me how much we are alike in many different ways to different unions throughout the country. When I talked about Guam, in fact, many people were very surprised that I think someone from Guam was actually there. One gentleman even mentioned, and he's from Texas, one gentleman mentioned that a lot of times in his speeches and things and talks he gave to different populations, that he would always use Guam sort of as an expression like, well, I don't care if it happens on Guam, or even if you're as far away as someplace like Guam. And for him to actually meet someone from Guam, he said it changed things for him, and that he was actually able to kind of give a face, I guess, to Guam, so to speak. And it was nice for me to be able to share my love for this island, and it was nice for me to explain how we are different, how we are unique from a lot of the other territories, all the other states, and explain why things on Guam in certain ways are a little more challenging, because we are limited in certain aspects that other unions and other places may not necessarily be limited. One of the strengths that kept coming up, and it wasn't because I was bringing it up, it was other people who kept bringing it up, was GFT's ability to communicate to the public in various forms of media. It seemed like we were actually kind of the leader in that sense. We used to have, they brought up the newspaper we used to put out. They brought up the emails, the e-updates we send out to people to help keep the public notified of current issues that are important to the working families. And it was something that came up quite often, and a lot of people were asking where they could watch the shows that GFT is starting to produce, where they could see the newspapers, how can they get onto the email list for the e-updates. And it was nice to know that as small as we are and as geographically isolated as our island is, there was a certain aspect in which we were kind of the leader. We were kind of set apart from them, and it was kind of, it made me proud. It kind of was a way that GFT stood out from the rest of the group, and Guam stood out from the rest of the group. You're watching The Working Family Show, made possible by GFT, Guam's local union.